Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Better to be Better. So, thank you for joining us today. I'm your moderator. My name is Angel. I'm Senior Physiotherapist from BMAC. So, today's webinar is brought to you by BMAC and our partner, Stroke Support Station S3. So, if you are following BMAC social media, you will know that our themes of October is Life Doesn't Stop with Stroke. And together we World Stroke Day on this Saturday, 29th of October. With our partner S3, we have invited two speakers to share their experience and story. Okay, so today's session will be more lively and we will have conversation and discussion with our speakers. So sit back and relax, not relax, but enjoy today's session. But of course, we need your participation to make this webinar more meaningful. So don't forget to log in your YouTube account and ask questions in the comment. Okay, so just a heads up, we will have gift to give away at the end of the session. So if you fill up an inquiry form, yeah. So let me introduce our first speaker, Kelvin Loon. So Kelvin is a general manager of Roof Kettles, and he helps other company to scaling up his business, their business. So Kelvin had a stroke last year November, and he has been sharing his rehab journey and his life experience in his Instagram account. So this is to support and advocacy for stroke survivor. So today he will be sharing his story and experience with us. So without further ado, let's welcome Kelvin with a short video. Hello, Kelvin.
Hey, hi, Angel. Good to see you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I think you are
Happy.
not only the GM, you're also a YouTuber.
No, lah. Just do my best.
Okay.
Actually, the Instagram account didn't came. I mean, just really came by chance because the original videos that I have was meant to use as a visualization for me to kind of help myself visual to walk normally in a sense.
Yeah.
So, but as I go through the journey, I realized that how useful and how beneficial it can be for other stroke survivors. That's why as you were watching the video just now, it was kind of like heartwarming to see, how difficult it was. Then I saw the comments was like walking with closeness with such a bee.
Okay, yeah.
So that's interesting lah. Yeah.
So Kelvin, maybe to let our audience to understand or know you better, maybe you can share a bit of yourself.
So from career standpoint, right, I spent the first 5.5 years in the telco industry. So starting with Singtel, and then I kind of wrap up with LG. Then I had a major change in my life when my dad passed on at the age of 58. So I spent 9 months at home with my mom, and then before pivoting to the learning and development industry. So in that industry space, I spent more than about close to 15 years already. So I started with account management. Then after that, looking at program consulting. Eventually now I'm doing business coaching. So helping organizations to instill skilling up methodologies. So that's where I am right now. Yeah.
So you also know of your career wise, and you are also a dad, right? Of
Yeah.
daughter,
So
right?
yeah. So I I'm currently a dad of one right now, and then
Okay.
yeah, so married with child lah in a sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good. So, I think this question won't be so sensitive to a man. Can I ask you what is your age?
I'm currently 44, but I mean I had it last November, so I
Okay,
had a stroke at age of 43. Yeah.
I see. Yep. So maybe I would like to ask the first question first. Like, what is your first things come to your mind when you realize that you got a stroke?
It was Yeah, it was quite surprisingly. It came as a shock because this happened on the day before I was admitted to hospital. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just we were just work, I was just working from home. Then I realized that I was feeling very fatigued. So fatigued that I couldn't even screw a bolt and nut together lah. In a sense, I was actually racking a kitchen rack. Yeah, so if
Mm,
you follow my IG story, you will realize that I have one story around it lah.
mm,
So when that happened, I what I did was that I just went to rest, and then the next morning that's when the weaknesses came in. So I woke up and
mm,
I was feeling left side weakness, but it
mm,
wasn't so bad at the beginning. So it was just at the initial.
mm,
Then I walked towards my wife. Then my wife realized that I had face stroke, and then I couldn't talk very properly then already lah. So then
mm,
I took one or two steps towards her, and then I kind of dived towards her, and that's when she caught me in a sense lah.
mm.
So she also realized that I suffered a stroke, and therefore make our way to the A&E lah.
I see.
Yeah.
So, how long you have been in, um, and I mean the hospital? Like, what is your journey looks like?
Yeah, so I was admitted to KTPH on the 9th of November.
Mm,
Stayed there for about 2 weeks. Especially the tail end, I was actually with the acute stroke unit, so that was quite an
mm,
eye-opening experience for me, because together in that ward there were maybe about 30 plus 40 of us lah. So
mm,
stroke is really quite common apparently.
mm,
Uh, but by then I already had I mean, I was literally half the man already lah. I mean, I couldn't lift my hands. I couldn't move my legs. Yeah, and being in the hospital, or being a young stroke survivor in a hospital setting, right? Everybody all very curious about you, so they want to test, see whether if your sensations are the same. So every day I get a few doses of those,
mm-hmm,
and then you really have to relearn everything lah, from basic things like sitting up on the bed to even like caring for yourself, things like for example eating or even just being in a sense is it becomes a new skill altogether.
mm.
Yeah,
So, yeah, you need to relearn all the new technique and regain all the function back. Right. We can
exactly.
see from your Instagram video. Maybe we can
Hmm.
show the Kelvin Instagram account that you can follow. Yeah, hit the follow button, so we can see from very start beginning of your stroke, and right now currently you are already back to work, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went back to work starting July lah, in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah, attending
Yeah.
the management meetings.
Yeah, I think you come a long way, and I will want to know, like, what is the obvious change in your life before and after the stroke, your lifestyle or your job, any modification, like what is the obvious change from your point of view? Yeah.
I think definitely a lot of things change lah. So starting from the mindset, right? I mean, I used to be somebody who is very driven, is a kind of a do whatever it takes kind of a attitude. But now that this has happened, you know, I needed to moderate in a sense. While I feel
Mm,
that work-life balance is a myth in a sense, but I feel that you can still balance moment by moment in a sense, like, because it's still a
mm,
choice that you can make. So
mm,
from that standpoint, that was one big change for me. And of
mm,
course, pre-stroke, I was very inactive in a sense because there's so much focus about growing the business, about uh, learning new things, and then adapting, and then working at the business at the same time.
mm,
So I mean, I while I have a pretty decent diet, and then I do long walks with my wife, but I wasn't active
Mm.
enough in a sense
Yeah.
lah. Yeah.
Mm.
So the neurologist has said that I don't have high BP, neither do I have very high risk cholesterol, and then yeah. So but they were still curious why is it that I suffer a stroke in a sense lah.
Mm. I
Yeah.
see.
So after eradicating all the different hypotheses, I'm still inconclusive in a sense.
Inconclusive. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
now
have
that
you
I'm
woke
post
up for today?
months, sorry, come again.
Sorry, have you woke up for today?
Yeah, that's for sure. I have a daily routine that I follow through lah. Yeah.
That's good. Yep. What you want to mention just now? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm saying that I think now that I've post stroke for 10 months, I don't think the reason or the cause is so important already lah.
Yes.
Yeah, what's more important is to keep an active lifestyle and keep the
Mm.
stroke at bay in a sense. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
but this journey isn't so smooth in a sense. Although on IG, right, on social media, it looks like wow, this guy is progressing so well. But I mean, there were many ups and downs in this journey, and truly the recovery process is not linear in a way, lah.
Yep.
So that's been a great learning opportunity for me.
So you brought up there is a lot of challenge in between your journey. So
Mm.
can you share like who or what were your source of inspiration for you to bring you for today's stage right now?
Actually, there were a few things to be grateful for. So first thing first was that the initial few weeks was very hard to swallow lah, knowing that you start to lose more and more of your functions. However, I mean, through prayers and music, it kind of helped. So I kind of like took some time, but then I slowly processed it. Then kind of did some self coaching on myself. So asking myself, what are the opportunities that I could learn from this? What were some of the things that I learned more about myself in a sense?
Mm.
And then what are some of the obstacles that I still need to face lah? And
Mm.
basically set some small targeted goals to help me to see progress.
I
So
see.
in that from that framework, then things started to start to recover in a way. Some spontaneous, some were through the aids of the inpatient rehab.
Yeah. So I think I understand that during that period also not allowed any visitor. I think that also will be quite difficult for family to, I mean, go over to visit you as well, right?
Yeah, so it was very tough. So the
Yeah.
first the first 5 weeks actually when I was in hospital, I wasn't allowed visitors. Like it was only the last week. Then
Mm.
they fixed one visitor. I mean basically one or two visitors could come.
Mm.
So that only
Mm.
then was I able to see my wife and my mom. Yeah.
I see. So I think it's really come a long way, and you cross over a lot of obstacle and challenging. Yeah, and I think right now you are able to walk without walking stick, right? You can,
Yeah, just today I
yeah,
started without walking stick.
yeah, and also you are able to climb stair without any assistance or holding. I think that is a very
Yeah.
huge, yeah,
I mean with much
improvement.
determination, yes. Yeah, I'm able
Yes,
to do
of
that.
course. You have I know that you have more goal to achieve, right? And I heard that you are going to attend Saturday walking for stroke, right? Standing
Yeah,
out of
so that
stroke.
would be a huge breakthrough for me because I'm doing a
Mm,
3 kilometer walk in a sense lah.
mm,
For now, I
yeah.
could only manage 1.2 kilometers without pain.
Mm,
Yeah,
I think by pacing you should be able to complete or the whole
yeah.
journey. Yep. So what are some of the service or program that you are attending now?
So this will have to see how the whole entire journey is like first, and then
Mm,
before bring you to that point.
yep.
So after
Please.
KTPH, I went to the Comhos, which is at the Yishun Comhos. Thereafter, actually, I kind of move on to TTSH at CUT. So which is the advanced rehab therapy in a sense.
Mm.
And at that place, it was very useful to give me the structure, the theories, and to what the things to look out for in terms of returning or to have a proper gait walking in a sense lah. So and gait pattern. So that was useful there from there. And then after that, I had the opportunity to cross path with the both of you, Angel and Shimin, who will join us later. So that was actually a very big progress for me, or huge progress when we did our rehab together. So I had the opportunity to step onto Galileo and then jump into autogy machine as well. Literally jumping in it lah.
Totally tekan by us, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but it came out well as in the progress. While I think different physicians will actually have different opinions about how the equipment is, but from a patient standpoint, it's the outcomes that matters. So while the journey wasn't easy, I mean, for the rest of you who would like to see more of it, I mean, the IG photos will see a lot of how I was being tekan and shaking all over the place. Yeah, so after the time with you guys also come to a completion, I then move on to S3. So of course in between I did TCM and also some other therapies as well, but we will just focus on the former institutions ones lah. So at S3 then I kind of did the walk-on program, which was a kind of like a continuation from the rehab program that I did with you guys, because they were also advocates for the autogy as well as the the Galileo machine as well.
Yeah, correct.
So right now, I have completed 4 cycles of walk-on, kind of going to complete the 5th one. And at the same time, I did some wellness programs that they offer, things like, for example, Pilates, chair yoga, and other programs lah. Yeah, and mat work. Yeah.
Yeah. I should shout out for Kelvin that he is really tekan by us, but he swallow it and accept the challenge, and that's why he really go through it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so I have to be thankful also. So if you see my surname, right? So my surname is Loon. So I very good.
Loon can tahan right?
Yeah, I can tahan. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelvin, for sharing your rehab journey. Of course, for the audience, if you have any question you want to ask Kelvin that I didn't brought up, please type your comment or your question in the chat box. So we'll brought it up later on when we have a Q&A session. So like just now, Kelvin brought out a program from Stroke Support Station. So right now I will give Kelvin a short break. Before we go back to you, I would like to take some time to introduce our partner, Stroke Support Station. Okay, so Stroke Support Station is the first and only stroke-focused community rehabilitation and wellness agency that dedicates to meeting the needs of post-stroke survivors and their caregiver across Singapore. So they provide advanced technology-assisted rehabilitation and conventional therapy as well. So without further ado, let's show you their introduction videos.
Stroke Support Station, or S3, is the only rehabilitation and wellness organization in Singapore dedicated to stroke survivors. We are located in the community for post-stroke survivors to receive advanced technology-assisted rehabilitation, conventional therapy, and our signature S3 wellness program, supporting cognitive and psychosocial development to maximize recovery. Typically, the first thing that survivors and their families need help in is rehab.
One of our key programs is our Walk-On program that uses a variety of high-end innovative rehab technologies to assist our members regain their mobility, physical fitness, and independence in the community. The Alter G, an anti-gravitational treadmill which allows customized unweighting of a stroke survivor to facilitate their walking, running, or other standing exercises which would otherwise be too difficult or unsafe to perform over ground.
When I was on this gravity treadmill, I was able to control and balance and able to feel light. and also the impact on my joints was minimized. Anti-gravity treadmill. It's not where you start, it's where you finish.
And the RoboWalk, a computer-assisted treadmill system that uses adjustable cables to provide gait correction training. Another unique S3 program is our exoskeleton program, where members work with their therapists in a high-tech wearable robotic machine to improve their standing and walking abilities. S3 Rehab services also cover conventional physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy.
Our conventional PT sessions help stroke survivors regain normal movement patterns, improve balance, build endurance and independence in their physical mobility. Task-specific training can include transfers, sitting balance, sit to stand, walking, jogging, climbing uphill and downhill slopes.
Occupational therapy services help stroke survivors who have physical, sensory, or cognitive problems gain independence in everyday tasks.
In upper limb rehab, our clients would engage in activities and exercises such as strengthening, coordination practice, and stretching. With rehab, our clients can improve in their functional performance as well as range of movement, strength in their different upper limb joints such as their shoulders, elbows, wrists and fingers. Cognitive activities such as word and number games, identification, matching and association mental practices stimulate different mental abilities such as recalling, processing and decision making.
We offer group therapy sessions for occupational therapy and physiotherapy members, such as our dynamic standing balance program, which focuses on improving our members' stability in standing while performing simple to complex movements. These group sessions are useful in promoting bonding and socialization.
S3's unique positioning of providing quality rehabilitation and wellness services is centered by the fact that we are located within the community for the community. We have a center in Red Hill and another one within Jurong Point Shopping Centre.
Alright, so this is our partner in Singapore, Stroke Support Station. Yeah, and Kelvin has been there for how long for your rehab?
Yeah, so after completing 5 cycles, I will be there for about 6 months or more. Really.
Okay, so for everyone, if you are interested to understand about more regarding S3, please visit their website. Yeah. So Kelvin, so over there you do walk-on program. I think there is a few technology that will be help you doing your exercise and your rehab. So which one technology that you prefer? Your favorite piece of rehab equipment?
So it's a love-hate relationship actually. So
yes, okay. This is life.
While the AutoG machine has many benefits in a way, but I feel that for one, like what Pandian has mentioned in the video, it offloads your weight. But more importantly, I feel is that it gives you the confidence to be able to do the actions or the movement that you can't do when you're over the ground. So and repetition in doing those movements within the machine also help you with the limiting belief that actually you can do this. It's not that it's not possible. It just takes time and then we kind of rewiring your neural connections to be able to make that movements come possible.
I see. So this is how you experience that technology helped you in your rehab journey, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I think you went to CUT as well, so you are also using some technology over there. I believe that will be helpful for you also.
Yeah, so CUT has many different technologies inside there. So the most recent one they have included is actually the HER system, which is kind of like a gym kind of equipment, but it's just that the weights can be programmed. I guess there is one technology there, which is the H harness system there, which has been quite useful for me in learning agility and how to do fall prevention when I was there. So
Mm.
I took one session to kind of learn how to break fall.
Yes.
While I still have my left side weakness, I think there is still opportunities to still practice a bit more with them. Yeah.
Okay. I think technology is the train now. Of course, we need to know how to apply it correctly in the right timing, so utilize it effectively. So from end user like Kelvin point of view, that the technology help him to improve the confidence level, help him to move, experience the like so-called normal movement, have more repetition of the practice. Yeah.
Mm. However, equipment has also its constraints as well. So like
Oh.
we have an arm extension for flexion and dorsiflexion kind of a movement. It
Mm.
was a pity that my hand was too long, so I wasn't able to fit myself into the machine. That's one. Two
Mm-hmm.
is that once I fitted in, then the machine couldn't work.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's limitation. Yeah.
I see. So I think of course, we need to know what is the right equipment to use and right equipment to apply when we see stroke patient. Yeah. Thank you,
Mm.
Kelvin, for your sharing. Yeah, I would like to take a break for you, and I want to invite our another speaker, Shimin, to come on board. She'll talk about more regarding technology and stroke rehabilitation. So Shimin, she is senior physiotherapist from VMAC, and she worked in Ng Teng Fong and Stroke Support Station before, and she has 10 years experience in physio career. So welcome, Shimin.
Oh, hi, Angel.
Hello. So, and I know you have been 10 years in physio, and what is your specialties and or interest in your physio career?
I think, yeah, so first 2 years, like any of the junior physiotherapy, we will go through rotation. From there, which I find my interest. So I take special interest in actually neuro rehab and especially stroke rehab. I guess that's where they bring me to stroke support
Stroke
station and
support.
finally eventually get up here together and be yeah.
I see. So you are very pretty familiar with walk on program in stroke support station as well, right?
Yeah, so during my
Yeah.
period when I was a physio there, yep, I've been using the walk-on system as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So could you tell us some factors that what will affect the outcome of stroke rehabilitation and recovery, like
Yep, sure.
through your experience? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think stroke rehab itself, I think we have to recognize it takes a very long time and it's frustrating experience, I think, for the stroke survivors. How we look at it as stroke itself is actually the whole recovery process is not like a 100-meter sprint, but rather it's a marathon. And I applaud Calvin and all the other stroke survivors out there who is taking this marathon and this recovery on their journey. But of course, there are some factors that will affect stroke rehabilitation on its own as well as stroke recovery. So listed on the screen here, you can see some of the factors. So the first one we can go through is actually physiological, which actually meant age. So we know that after stroke, the younger population or the younger survivors, they tend to recover a bit better or faster than those who suffered stroke at slightly older age. Gender is one factor as well. So stroke tend to affect the male more than the female. But female, I think we have it a bit tougher. It has shown that actually the outcome of stroke recovery or the impact of stroke is actually a bit more severe if you are a female compared to a male. Yeah. And another thing we could consider is actually the extent of stroke. So how massive is your stroke incident, whether it's a minor stroke, moderate stroke, or a very severe stroke. And also under physiological factor, we can look at comorbidities, which is whether clients or whether stroke survivors actually have other medical condition prior to having a stroke at home. So all this actually affect the recovery. The other aspect that we can share is actually the physical aspect. So how it affects the recovery, it's also your physical function, your physical build, or whether you are more muscular in nature, whether you are stronger prior to stroke. The extent of the effect of stroke on the stroke survivor. So like what we say, some have it worse, some have it better. Not better in that sense, but yeah, I think they could recover better in that sense because of their physical aspect. Then we look at the function, the strength, and the movements after stroke. So one important factor I would like to highlight is also rehabilitation. So the timing of rehabilitation actually plays an important part, as well as the intensity, the frequency, the correct amount of rehab that you're actually receiving. But human factor is also always one of this to play in rehabilitation. So your rapport and the trust between therapists and stroke survivors or clients has to be there. I think it gives that feeling and the confidence for stroke survivor to work harder, to know that they will always be assistance, let's say, if they needed it, and that sense of confidence and safety. Lah. So I think that's the factor of the rehabilitation part. Emotionally, it also there's a difference. So the motivational factor as well as the mood, the dedication, and the willingness to recovery. So I think we can see from Kelvin's experience that because he's very determined, he's very dedicated. He wants to get well. He has the thought to get well. That's why he can come a long way to where he is, as well as his readiness. So I think along the way, sometimes stroke survivors are just not ready at a certain point, or they do not accept the fact that stroke has hit them. So sometimes they need a longer period of time in order to get ready, get prepared to combat what's ahead of them, to make the stroke recovery happen. So socially, there's also a factor to play. So like social network and resources that people get, the support from family and friends. So like the conversation that Angel and Kelvin had earlier about COVID restrictions where visitations were limited. I think that will affect most of the, not even just survivors, but anyone that is actually admitted in the hospital in terms of their recovery because I think that limited the sense of the support that they are getting. They couldn't know if people are out there for them, whether they are actually supported in that sense. I think most important factor is really the social aspect part where there's a need. Survivors, they actually need people who treat them as though they will recover, who believe that they will recover, who also believe in the plasticity of the brain and its ability to recover. They need people who really love them for not the person they were previously, but accept them as who they are now. And that to know that all stroke survivors out there, they are still an individual of themselves. They have values, they have dreams, and we should all focus on their ability while working on their physical limitations to get them to a higher level than what they are right now. So I think the social aspect is a very powerful aspect for most, if not all, stroke survivors. The last point I would think is the environment. So like home environment, work environment, it's really the support and the network and the physical environment itself for stroke survivors to know that there's a sense of safety for them to do what they want, and they are not being watched very closely, or they are not being restricted that they can't do anything else. Yeah, so I think these are some of the factors that I would like to highlight, and I think these are some of the factors that will contribute to stroke recovery. So I would like to share a quote which is said by a Swiss psychiatrist. I think this is very applicable where we talk about the factors. This is what the person say: "I'm not what happened to me, but I'm what I choose to become." So I think the dedication, willingness, I think at the end of it all boils down to the people, the person. So for stroke, we had to be successful.
Yeah, I totally agree with the quote. It's a very powerful quote. And as a therapist, right, for our job is really guiding them to progress together with them. But the person itself, the stroke survivor itself, is the main factors to motivate to continue to improve. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so sometimes we will hear of our patient or our stroke client, they are feeling upset because they were told that they might have reached the plateau in their recovery. So what is your point, or what do you think of this plateau?
Okay, so I think before we go into the discussion of,
Mm.
let's say, the plateau, there's one particular concept that we need to understand. That's actually neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is actually the brain's ability to modify, to adapt, to change, both structurally and functionally throughout lifetime. So that's in response to experience. So that being said, neuroplasticity is not spontaneous, so it won't happen out of the blue on its own. So it needs to be facilitated, it needs to be encouraged, which tells us that there are actually always potential out there, right, for recovery. So when we talk about if recovery plateau really exists, right, you think about it, there are people in their 30s, in their 40s picking up skills like swimming, picking up skills like cycling. They can learn new things. But there are also people who are at older age, like 60 or 80, learning like climbing, drawing, or even different languages, right? This is an example of neuroplasticity. With stimulations, with guidance, with facilitation, they actually learn. The brain is able to adapt. So I think the brain itself needs new stimulants and exciting environment for neuroplasticity to take place. So yeah. So without those, I think without those stimulants, without this exciting environment, okay, I think we become stagnant and our brain gradually just stop growing. So I think in that sense, where we translate into stroke rehab or stroke recovery, the tasks and practices that need to be challenging enough for these survivors so that neuroplasticity can take place, improvements can be there. And I have to say that the concept of like a recovery plateau or a concept of you cannot improve further, right? Or this is where you are right now, right? I think this is actually very limiting. It limits the stroke survivors' potential. It limits their recovery, and not only that, when service providers or we are looking at service development down the road, um, the concept of plateau actually limits all this development. It doesn't provide people to develop services that bridge the gap after rehabilitation. So because of the concept plateau, we believe that it's like that already, like they cannot improve already. So then there is
Yeah.
no service that actually out there to provide after that. So what about fitness? So what about holistic treatment? What about wellness after the rehabilitation phase? So
Yeah.
that is what I think, right? So it's a food for
Agree.
thought. So then allow me to throw back the question to everyone or the audience. Okay, so does recovery plateau really exist? Or is it that it's our mindset that is actually plateauing? Right. So I think this is just food for thought from my side.
Yeah. So I mean, very good question for people to go back and think, raise your pillow and think through. Yeah. So, but just to point out another question is to be able to reach outcome, the intensity. So, how much therapy is enough, or how much stimulants is enough for, I mean, for the to see the outcome.
Yeah, so I think this is a good question that we should all take into account or think about
Yes.
it. So if you look at literature or research study, okay, actually for neuroplasticity to take place, or particularly in stroke rehab or rehabilitation, okay, we are actually looking at having stroke survivors or having patients to do 400 to 600 repetitions of challenging and functional tasks per day for neuroplasticity to take place. And in terms of walking, in terms of gait, we are looking at 1,000 to 2,000 steps of training per day, right? But then if we relate and we think back about what we have been doing usually over 1 hour or 45-minute physiotherapy session or occupational therapy session, I think duty as charged as a therapist, we are only achieving about 40 to 60 reps of exercise per therapy sessions, and the amount of steps that we clock during the therapy session is actually very under the suggested amount. So we cannot even hit 1,000 steps. one thing is given the time, given the resources, or given the space constraints that we have, it's hard for us to hit the 1,000 steps. Okay, and all this contribute to what that falls below what the brain really needs. So which can explain why then people come up with the concept on the top of plateau, right? Because it's not because they plateau, but because we are not hitting the intensity and
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I think you can share a bit more about like how technology can help with these two factors, like if you want to reach these two main factors.
So like what also Kelvin mentioned just now, I think is the repetitions. So in a sense, technology, the beauty of the high-tech devices or technology out there is really to allow therapists to use them as a tool, as an adjunct to therapy sessions to achieve the maximum and sufficient repetitions. Like what we say, we couldn't walk 1,000 steps over ground, but we could achieve that easily on the treadmill, right? We can't get patients to do only extension or leg kicking over normal ground for like 10 minutes to achieve like 400 to 600 reps. But because of technology with bicycle, with semi-recumbent bikes, with seated elliptical, we are able to achieve that the repetitions that is needed. But of course, there are pros and cons of technology. One big thing is the application part, and the other part, like what Kelvin mentioned, his hand is too long; it cannot fit into the technology. So I think that's also we need to know the application of the technology itself in order to facilitate recovery in order for the brain to rewire itself.
Yeah. So maybe I when I use technology sometimes as Asian, right, our body is shorter. So sometimes some of the technologies come from overseas that we have limited to use for those smaller size patient. Yeah. Correct. So, Shimi, can you share with us a bit more regarding the program that Calvin mentioned just now, the Walk On program in S3?
Yeah, definitely. So if we look at Walk On, we just talk about the technical aspect first. So actually what Walk On is, it's really a rehab program. It's a slightly more complex enterprise solution for stroke survivors. So it comprises of 5 different hardware, okay, and it's actually BMAX. The Walk On program itself is actually BMAX proprietary program together with our own proprietary clinical software. So 5 hardware coupled together with 1 clinical software. So the 5 different hardware is actually whole body vibration technology, treadmill with expanders, gait analysis platform, anti-gravity treadmill, as well as a seated elliptical. So these are the 5 hardware components, and all of them have different function and different aspect that they would train for the stroke clients or stroke survivors. And of course, coupled with clinical software of our own. Okay, how or what does the clinical software does is actually give guidance to both trainer and trainees on exercises that could be done on certain machines and what aspect they could be trained at. There's also a progression chart where clients are able to see what's the next target or how far they have come from the first session of therapy program. So it's a very visual cue. It helps the therapists as well. It helps the stroke survivors. So Walk On
with the
itself.
software. With the software. Yeah.
So so Walk On is actually based on the concept of an adaptive fitness program, and the value of it is really the powerful outcomes that is happening. We are able to achieve results in shorter period of rehab time because of the intensity and frequency. It's safe yet aggressive conditioning. Okay, like what Kelvin feel. Okay, it's trying to normalize the movement pattern and getting them to be safe and confident in their rehab journey. And the most important thing is with Walk On itself, we are moving from compensatory to actually corrective training. Yeah.
Okay. I think there is a Jackie shared that any trial available for Walk On program. Yeah, later on you can fill up the inquiry form, then we will reply you from there. Okay. So yeah, I think frequency and intensity is a main point as well. So other than that, any point that you want to bring up?
Yeah, so last point, like I say, everything is always about the people, the persons. So it's about the client, it's about the therapist, it's about the family members, about the social support and everything. So I think when Walk On was being developed, okay, it's not only about the hardware as well as the clinical software, but also the aspect of human touch. It's about integrating technology with humanness, okay, to help patients or help stroke survivors get better in their recovery. And not only as a therapist or client relationship between the human touch, I think it's also what BMAC does is we do training for people who adopt technologies to bridge the gap so that therapists or trainers can be more focused on their care on clients instead of trying to find out their own way on how this machine work, the application part. So I think that bridge the gap between the knowledge of the machine as well as the application, so that the technology itself will not end up as a white elephant in the room. So yeah, the human component very important. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shimi, for your sharing. I think the application part, the human touch part is totally important for our patient outcome. Then as a therapist, I think the application we should understand better, then we know how to use it correctly and utilize it correctly. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I think we should bring Kelvin back in our stage and we will go through the question in the comments. So thank you everyone for your comments and let me go through. So there is a question. So is there any difference between stroke and Bell palsy? So maybe this question can go to Shimin.
Okay, so I think the difference between stroke as well as Bell palsy is actually the cause of it. So the symptoms is a little bit similar in terms of Bell palsy is actually a paralysis of the facial muscles that cause the weakness. But actually, if you look at it, the cause itself is actually quite unknown. But it is thought to be maybe a viral infection affecting the nerve that is actually controlling the facial muscle. That's why causing the weakness. While stroke is actually different in the sense that the cause of stroke, there will be two different factors. One is actually the bursting of the vessels in the brain. Another one is a blockage of the vessels in the brain. So causing different symptoms like numbness, weakness, coordination issue, or even speech issue. So Bell palsy itself, it tends to recover within a certain time frame. But of course, that being said, there are also small amount of people or small population that actually have Bell palsy for the rest of their lives. While stroke is actually it's something that I think would need a bit of work, okay, to rehab to get them back to where they are or to have a function improvement. Yeah.
So I think Renita also brought up a question like how to overcome unsteadiness of when you walk and the slow speech issue as well. So maybe Shimi can answer this also.
Yeah, so I think in terms of slow or unsteady walking, I think we could do training. So specific gait training, specific balance training will be prescribed depending on the assessment of the client or the stroke survivors. Speech-wise, usually some practice with the oral muscle, some practice with breathing, and it's really dependent on what is the cause of it. So so there are actually treatment to actually facilitate this recovery based on assessment and prescription. But I would also like to direct this to Kelvin and see if he would like to share any of his experience in terms of overcoming speech as well as unsteady walking.
I think for slow speech, or which is part of the symptoms from aphasia, actually there were quite a lot of different exercises that I did, both inpatient and also outpatient. So the inpatient one, they actually use a tongue depressor and then basically train your muscles. The other thing that they taught, the OT taught, was actually to use your tongue and go around your mouth in a sense. So actually helping with the oration or the pronunciation or the enunciation of words lah, in a sense. But I feel that while those were not easy to do, but I feel it's also about practice and persistence lor. So in the early stages of my recovery, actually the beyond just the facial muscular portion is also about like when I thought of certain words, I couldn't speak it out. So that comes a lot with time and practice in a sense and repetition. So if you have that, then slowly but surely it will return. With
So
regards to the unbalanced walking, I think like what Shimin has said, it's really more about the training and the practice and what were the exercises that was prescribed. Yeah.
yeah. So to add on the few points that Kelvin and Shimin mentioned, so every individual stroke patient will be different. So what is the cause of unsteadiness or speech issue? Actually, still need therapists to assess, then give the prescription of the exercise. So because by assessment, we will know the source of the problem, the issue, then we will be given the targeted treatment. So then we can solve the problem that mentioned. Yeah. So sometimes we think, oh, I can't walk properly because my leg, but because it's actually the trunk control is not there. So this all will take in fact. So for sure need to let the therapist have a full assessment to find out the main cause of the problem. Yep. I think there's a few more questions. So how long is the whole? Okay, so is there any trial available for Walk On program? Yes. Just write down. There is a QR code there, so please scan the QR code and sign up. I mean, fill up the enquirer form. We'll get back to you for this. So next one will be how long is the whole Walk On program? So I will take this answer. So Walk On program will be 12 sessions. So by one cycle. So depends what is the frequency of your each session, each week. So some will encourage 2 to 3 times a week for 1 week. Yeah. So the whole cycle will be 12 sessions. Okay. So next question will be to our Kelvin. So have you even thought to give up during your recovery journey? From and then thank you Anand.
Yeah, thanks Anand for the question. So in the whole entire recovery journey, there was a lot of ups and downs. Definitely, there were some very bad days, especially when your body cannot respond as how you want it to be. Especially when post-stroke fatigue comes very real. So I mean, you are like trying to get back to your routine, but yet the body is not willing in a sense, lah. But having said that, I have not thought of giving up because of my family and my loved ones in a way. Because yeah, I mean, to think about it, if I'm not able to function properly or to become independent, then there will be a lot of dependence on them, and that might also affect the relationships that I have with my loved ones.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question to Alvin from Amy that regarding your rehab journey so far. So what is the difficult to look up different treatment provider? Like what is your experience? Like when you want to seek for different treatment provider in different stage of your recovery.
I think thanks Amy for that question. Honestly, it was at the initial stage it was quite difficult because I'm so overwhelmed with a lot of different information as what you will Google on the internet, and it's very difficult to so-called find the right solution or the treatments for yourself. But over time and practice, I realized that there are different things that can help to see whether if you gauge. So pretty much the different aspects or the different factors that Shumin has shared earlier on, whether if you are choosing how you are choosing the right therapies, and whether if that will work out. Because if you have the right treatment, but the therapist also doesn't bring out the potential in you, then that could also be a deterrent for you to progress forward. Yeah.
Okay. So Kelvin, do you see any gap between the service offer, like as your experience through your journey?
I think from a Singapore stroke survivor standpoint, there are some gaps that I might have experienced. So first of all, I mean, we know that stroke is the third most common cause for death in Singapore, and on a yearly basis, you have about 5 to 8 thousand people who experience stroke. But yet at the same time, there wasn't really a comprehensive like a step by step approach to or blueprint or pathway for me to take in terms of my recovery, which addresses actually the question that Amy and Anand asked. Whether how was it? Because it's not so straightforward, and it caused a lot of confusion along the way in terms of the journey. Because at each step, you're not sure whether what would happen after the completion of this cycle, in a sense. Yeah, so that's why I think there is a gap in there. It could be partially because of communication. It could be partially because nobody actually shared this resource as well. And and each therapists have their own different training and experience, and therefore what they subscribe to are also quite specific in a way. So say for example, the treatments that I've experienced, they will never recognize TCM as one of the contributor to my recovery. But then from a patient standpoint, it has actually helped quite significantly in in regaining some of the functions for my arms actually and my fingers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for this question is not to blame anyone, but for us as a provider or the people to think through that how to close the gap better and how to help the stroke survivor better. So thank you so much, Kelvin, for your feedback and your sharing. So is there any other question? Yeah, we have one. Is there a similar S3 setup in Malaysia? Right now, we are looking for a partner. So if you are interested to set up work on in Malaysia, similar to S3, please scan the QR code for the enquiry form. Then we can talk a bit more after that. Yeah. So I think pretty much from the question. Any question? Shimin, Kelvin, or any thoughts you want to share?
I think maybe for me, right, just to wrap up the part about the gaps, right? Basically, the recovery is not so straightforward. Like, it doesn't mean that after you go to step A, then there is a step B and step C. So there is a lot of research, and then seeing whether what works for me specifically, in a sense. Especially when each stroke survivor is very unique. Yeah, and where their starting point is also quite different.
Yeah. And the readiness of stroke survivor will be different as well. Will be
Yeah,
very
that's right.
individualized. Sometimes the service is there or setting is there, but sometimes they are not ready for the service. Yeah. So
That's
I think
true.
that will be make a difference also. Yeah. So Kelvin, any other some words or advice you would like to say to other stroke survivor out there that you want to encourage them?
Be kind to yourself and never give up. And to all the physiotherapists out there, thank you so much for all your hard work. But please continue to promote hope and optimism for all our stroke survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. So don't forget, thank you, Kelvin, for your sharing, and thank you, Shimin, for your sharing. First, I want to shout out for Kelvin again. So don't forget to hit the follow button at his Instagram account. Yeah. So we would like to follow through his life journey and his positive spirit. Okay. So before I end the session, I would like to thanks again everyone who is attending this webinar. Thanks Kelvin, thanks Shimin, thanks our partner S3 to make this webinar happen. Okay, so please remember to scan the QR code over there if you have any question that you want to ask us to Kelvin or myself. You are too shy to ask question right now or don't have time to ask right now, please fill out the enquiry form. So we will follow up through after that. Yeah, you can ask any partnership, S3, BMAC, Kelvin, or Shimin. Just sign up the enquiry form. And by doing this, you have a chance to win a compression socks. Okay, so it is a very wonderful conversation. So thanks everyone again. And thank you for joining the webinar. And this webinar is better to be better. So for everyone in different position, other than, I mean, not only for stroke patient, stroke client, but everyone out there, therapists, mom, dad, worker. So continue better to be better. So thank you so much and see you again. Goodbye.